9:40.
Oh, 9:40. Shoot, okay. Yeah, sorry, a couple of, Levaya Shaila and a Shaila that's negated to tonight's stuff, and you could just imagine. If it's negated to tonight's stuff, then it's, so you can't even make it up that it's negated to tonight's stuff. But whatever, I'm in the middle of handling it, so. And still a late arriving crowd, no minyan on yet.
Some people hear it on Shabbos during the day, Reb Shia.
Some what?
Some people hear a different Maggid Shia on Shabbos.
No, I know that. No, I don't blame them. But
I just heard the last 7 minutes by Rabbi Finkel. Okay, I went to the 6 o'clock for Rabbi Blumenkrantz. That's the one I go to his shia when you're not. It was pretty juicy till just the last 7 minutes.
No, the end of the daf is just all psukim.
Well, I don't know where he exactly was up to. I wasn't looking in the Gemara. I just sat down when I was waiting for Mincha.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, all right, so let's get started. Are we doing Musa? We're not doing Musa? I guess, okay, we have a minyan now and I'm late enough, so I guess we'll skip out the Musa.
Naphtali sneaking a child in under his coat.
What should I do? He wants to hear share. I know you said not what's it called. I'm hoping he won't understand.
All right, listen up.
My headphones died. This one week.
You know what? If yeshivas can learn Pesach B'suach, your son can learn this.
That's it. Okay. I don't have it. It's dying. It's charging. He wants to put the headphones in there. My headphones died.
There you go.
I don't know. Okay. Here we go. We got.
All right, so we're on what's late already? I'm sorry. Okay, so we're on Nun Gimel Base. So we're talking about that any form of yibum, any form of Biyah causes the mitzvah of yibum to happen, right? Whether it's ba'inus, baratzon, shaygig, mezid, haraah, not haraah, right? So Tani Reb Chia, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines up from the bottom. Should be late enough that the Midwest people should be able to be in. Okay. So anyway, so Tani Reb Chia, afilu shneim shaygigin, shneim mezidim, shneim anusim. So Reb Chia said, even if they're both b'shaygig, which means that they have no idea that they're being together with each other. Shneim mezidin, or whether they're both on purpose, meaning on purpose doesn't mean that they're doing the yibum on purpose. They're purposely thinking that they're doing something improper. And Mamela, they end up doing something proper because they're supposed to be with each other, right? Or Shnei Manusim, or they're both forced, right? So he's basically expanding on what the Mishnah said. Fine. So Gemara says, "Onus the masnisin heichidami." What's the case of onus in our Mishnah? Meaning, how can somebody be together with a woman when he's being forced? How could that be? If you're going to say where the goyim were ma'anas him and said that he has to be together with her or they're going to kill him, right? There's no such thing as a einis ha'erva. You can't say somebody was forced by erva because a man cannot get bekishui. Right? He cannot get an erection unless it's badas. You can't say that somebody was forced into that. Right? I mean, a guy is holding a gun to his head and says, "Be together with her." Right? That's all very nice. If he's not Bekisha, he can't be together with her. So if he was Bekisha, that's considered a ratzon.
But they could force him other ways.
Oh, so we're going to see that what the different options are. But the bottom line is, if he doesn't have Kisha, so then that's not going to be considered a biyah, which is going to come up later on in the Mishnah, because who says, why can't that be? Right? Let's say he doesn't have an erection and he's forced onto her. So why is that not a biyah? Why can that not be haraah? Right? Okay, we'll get to that too. We'll get to that later in the daf. What do you call it? Yeah, so that's Taisus. One second, which Taisus is it? If you look in the so Taisus Shansu discusses that whether it can actually be considered a biyah without an erection, with an erection, whatever. Okay, well, we'll see later in the daf. So then the Gemara says, so that's not an option. So it can't be that the Goyim held the gun to his head. Reb Reif B'Tvach, we're on the bottom line on Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Right? Ella B'Yashan, it must be that he was sleeping, right? And he had a kishui when he was sleeping, right? And then she went to him when he was sleeping, right? So that's against his will. So and the Mishnah is saying that the male it's still considered yibum. No, that can't be. Rabbi Yehuda on Talmud Aleph now. Yashan loikana b'yavimtai. If he's sleeping, he's not kind of his yivama. I mean, you have to have epis das. You have to have some sort of das when you're sleeping. How can you say you have das to be kind of this woman? Again, it's basically he's marrying her.
He's not going to wake. He's not going to wake up.
I guess he's a deep sleeper, right?
Okay.
The truth. Yeah, I don't know. The truth is, we're going to see Vaita with the sleeping too, right? The child is if you need das.
Drunk, does that help?
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that too. What happens if
or
he's
a
drunk?
coma? Maybe it's a coma.
Or yeah, because that would be the same thing. What happens if he's tam a shaita? Let's say there's one brother left to do the yibum and he's a shaita. He has no das. Cotton we already discussed. The cotton less than 9 doesn't work, right? So if he doesn't have from here, it's masher. You have no das, then it doesn't work. Either way, so the Gemara is saying so. It's I mean the way Rashi says it, Yashan lav bar das. Have a kinyon or kinyon. His kinyon is not a kinyon. Okay, so now we start getting into more wild cases. Ella the niska. What happened is that he totally had the intercourse totally by mistake. Right? Now, what's this case? He was together with his wife on the roof, and then he fell off the roof, and the yivama was on the floor, and he fell on top of the yivama, and that's how there was a biyah. Okay? Okay. But that's the case. Okay?
That's an interesting story. He'll tell his friends or whoever.
Yeah, yes, that is an interesting story.
This
but
is one you're not going to believe, but
right. But that's I don't know why Rashi has to say such a wild case, right? Saying why can it be that they were in a bed and she was in the room and he fell off the bed?
Because that's possibly believable. Rashi's trying to get the case where it's not.
Did we have that Gemara where he was under the bed?
Right, he was hiding under the bed to learn how to be together with his wife. He was under his Rebbe's bed. It's not like there isn't past, and that's a true story. At least we think it's a true story. I don't know. Okay, but that's what the Gemara says. It doesn't work either because if this does happen, so we know when the sugis and Bava Kama, somebody does damage to somebody to one, then they have to pay. Nezek, Tsar, Ripuy, Sheves, and then there's Baishas too, which the Gemara is going to get. So here he's causing her pain and Tsar, etc., etc. So he has to pay for all that, but he's not kind as a yevama. So that can't be the case either. Ella, so the Gemara says, he had kavana to be together with his wife, right? So he had a kishui. To be together with his wife, and now I can understand why this guy doesn't want to do yibum to this lady. The takfasa yivimta, and then his yivama came in and overpowered him, ubala, and made him come on to her. Can you just imagine how strong this woman must be? And this, if that's the case, right? But that's what we're saying. So Lamaisi had a kishui, which was beratzon, but he didn't want to be together with. He wanted to be together with his wife. And she overpowered him and made him go to her, right? So therefore, we're saying that would be a case of einus, and that would be considered a kosher yibum. Fine, okay. So that's if one is einus. How about both? Then the Gemara asks, how do you get a case where they're both einus? This one, okay. So this one explains how he's an einus. But how about her? How about her together with him? So we're talking about where he had kavana to be together with his wife. Then the Goyim came along and then forced the man onto the yevama, ubala, and he was boiled. Right? So the first case where just he was an einus and she was not, is where she overpowered him. The second case where they're both einsim is where the guy came and overpowered both of them.
Why couldn't they just both be blind?
They can't, no, because that wouldn't be an einus. That wouldn't be forced.
Why?
That's just a mistake. That would be a shaygig, no?
I hear.
No, that would be that's what I think. Okay, so minan immediately. How do you know that it works for einus, b'shaygig, and all those things? The Tana Rabbanan learned yevama yavayala. The pasuk says the yevama comes onto her. Mitzvah, a mitzvah, which means that it's a mitzvah, right? Which Rashi says we had this last week or 2 weeks ago. There's a bigger mitzvah to do yibum than chalitza. Davar acher, right? Something else. This davar acher doesn't mean another pshat, right? Just to make that again in yevamos things that can get confusing. This davar acher is not another pshat. It means another thing to learn out from the pasuk is yevama yavayaleh. The yivama comes onto her. Bein b'shaygig, bein b'mezid, bein b'oinus, bein b'rotzen. Right. So the Gemara says, "What do you mean? You're dashing two things out from the same pasuk. Again, the first thing he says yivama yavayaleh, that it's a mitzvah to do yibum, then not chalitza, and then you're saying that it means shaygig, mezid, oinus, rotzen. So didn't you just learn it? So the mitzvah, no, the mitzvah we learn out from the pasuk that im lo yachbot ish, that if the man doesn't want her, hachafetz yavama, but if he does want her, then he should do yibum. If he also kra, and then when the pasuk came along, the other pasuk that's bein b'shaygig, bein b'mezid, bein b'oinus, bein b'rotzen. Fine, that's one way to learn out that it doesn't make a difference how the intercourse happened, as long as it happened, it's fine. Tanya idach, we learned another brayso. Yevama yavayaleh kidarka. Yevama yavayaleh means that regular intercourse. The ulakacha, and lukacha means he takes her shalai kidarka. So if they have biyah shalai kidarka, that's also going to make yibum. Biyabam, biyah gaimeres ba, ain't kesef ishtar gaimer ba. And then the word biyabam tells you that intercourse makes the marriage. For the yibum, vein kesef ishtar gaimer ba, but kesef and shtar is not gaimer ba. The yevama baal karche, and the yevama also means baal karche, he forces her. Davar acher yevama yavela bein b'shagig bein b'mezid b'chulu. Right. So when it says va'afikte l'kedarava, l'kedarkum, sorry, we already said that that's to tell you that that it's kedarka, meaning and she'ain kedarka, shalai kedarka. So when it says ahumi lahakim la'achiv shame, after that we learn up that he's supposed to be make him for his brother a shame. The makom should make him shame. It has to be that you can, and it can be in a place where she can actually get pregnant from it. Right? Be a shalai kedarka, she can't get pregnant from. Right.
So why is it good yibum? Why is it a good? Why is she kinder? Why are you kinder? If you do it shalai kedarka.
No, that's I think that's what the pasuk is telling you. Right. No, isn't that what the pasuk telling Lafuke that? One second.
Where the gimel is.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just looking back in the Mishnah. Yeah, so what are you asking? I don't have a gimel. Do you have a gimel?
Why is he kinder if it's shalai kedarka? If it's not going to lead.
No, because because we have another pasuk. If you just learn it from the first pasuk, it would tell you it has to be only a relations that can possibly cause a pregnancy. Masha ein kain, a relations that will not cause a pregnancy, you won't get. But then we have the pasuk ulakacha that tells you no, shalai kedarka also makes her into a yavama. Right? That's Meaning, yes,
even though it's not going to make a name for the,
even though it cannot lead to a pregnancy.
No, it's not going to make the name.
No, Zev, it's the first pasuk is mashma that it only works if it's going to make a name. Then comes along the pasuk ulakacha to tell you that even if it's not going to make a name, it's still considered a yibum.
Why?
Because it's exeris hakosim. That's all. It's exeris hakosim. You're 100% right. It doesn't make any sense. The whole point, but we had this kasha a few times already, right? That when the whole point is to make that should be a biyah to have a brother, to have a baby, right? And then it doesn't. What do you say?
I'm saying so you could learn that it doesn't have to be from the first biyah. Now she's a regular wife to him.
Right. So then you get into whether a
regular chasana.
Right, but
and the wife is a psula, so the chances are she's not going to become pregnant from the first biyah.
Yeah, so the question is, right, but let's say he doesn't stay with her anymore. So
okay, that's the kasha on what I'm saying.
Right, but the psula could lead. Not the first time.
No, but it's still the Maisa, the Kinyan and the Maisa Yibum is done. Right? Yeah, it's a shver thing. Anyways, so Tavaracher, yevama yavayaleh, bein b'shogig, bein b'mezin. So then says about fikte l'kedarka. We already said that's that it's telling you that biyah kedarka does yibum. So who lahakim la'achiv shem nafka, that you know from lahakim la'achiv shem that you're doing something to try and potentially get a son in the name of your brother. The makom shemaykim shem, and that's the makom where you can get a name from, which is your standard intercourse. And then when the other pasuk is coming to tell you that it doesn't make a difference how the relations happen, it's as long as it happened, then that's enough. Okay, so that's how we know that it works. Kedarka, shaloi kedarka, bein ba'inus, baratzon, shaygeg, ratzon. Fine. Gufa, Amar Rav Yehuda, Yashan loy kana b'yevimta. So if the yavam was sleeping, so he's not kind of the yevimta, right? So meaning if he's sleeping, he gets a kishu, right? He gets an erection, and then she forces him inside her when he's sleeping. That's he's not kana. Damar kana yivama, damar kro yivama yavayaleh. He has to have a shame biyah when he's sleeping. Then obviously there's no kavanah. Oh, but the Gemara says, "Vatani, we have a brayse bein or ben yashin, bein er ben yashin, whether he's up or whether he's sleeping, he's kind of her." So ema bein era bein yeshena, right? It means whether she's up or whether she's sleeping. Meaning he has to have the kavanah. She does not have to have kavanah. So she could be sleeping, and he could come on to her, and then that will be considered a yibum.
We said Yashalai can't be yivimta. Why? Because he can't have.
So according to what the Gemara is going to change on this in a minute, but right now the Gemara is thinking that he has to have kavanah, she does not have to have kavanah. So we're changing it to lashon nekeva, from a lashon zachar to lashon nekeva.
But why isn't it kinda? Because he can't. Because he doesn't have a mind.
With that, yeah, he's not being kinda. Marriage is essentially a kinyan.
He's not doing real shame.
He's not doing it with any kavanah. He's sleeping.
He's not doing a l'shem anything.
Who says he has to?
How is it not rape? If she's
he's allowed to rape.
Works. You're right.
He's allowed to rape her.
It is rape, but it's allowed for this. Yeah.
Well, who says he needs kavanah?
That's what we're learning.
He could be like Yaakov Avinu. Have a kavanah.
Welcome to today's daf.
By the way, there's a bracha to be made. It's a very interesting thing. I Garada saw it today. Agav. I can't say I was looking at this to prepare it. I was looking at Shulchan Aruch, it was yibum. And Agav, I came across it. It could be it's later on in the Masechta. I don't know. Don't remember. Whatever it is. Kilo, I don't know. But in the Shulchan Aruch, it says, Be'etzem by yibum, you make a bracha before. You make a bracha. Now, why would there be the tzad not to make a bracha? So no, sorry, you make the bracha after. You make the bracha after, not before. Why? Because you could make the bracha and she could run away. And you say, no. Right, to be mafsik. So therefore,
the brisker one,
after.
Right, the brisker one, yeah.
Yeah. So then the problem is, but by Kiddushin, we make the bracha before. Right? You make the bracha and then you put on the ring. How do you know she's not running away? Right?
She wants the money.
Maybe you mean here there's no money. Okay, it's a kasha. It's a kasha. But whatever.
Well, the Masada stands on her dress. He puts one foot on the dress.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. It just seems like she's not going to run away.
By the Kedushin, she already had Arison. So she needs to close the deal.
No, Arison, we make a bracha before also.
Then I don't have a good answer.
Kedushin is Arison.
Kedushin, right. I'm saying Arison, meaning he means engagement. It's the engagement. You make the bracha before. Before you put on the ring, you make the bracha, right? Yeah. If they're smart, they run, but they're not smart. What should I tell you? I'm saying whatever. But anyway, so okay. Either way, the Gemara changes my words. Vatani learned the rights of Bain Yoshan who Bain Arahi Bain Yushani. It makes no difference whether he's sleeping, she's sleeping. It's all no good. So Miss Namne, where she's dozing off, right? Or I'm sorry, he's dozing off. Where do you get misnamdim? The Olam should remember this from Megillah, hopefully, but it's quite a tushta, right? What the two things are negated?
Yeah, by the Megillah, by the Seder, both.
Correct, and then by yibum, right? Anyway, so Amar Ravashi nim v'loy nim tir v'loy tir. It means he's sleeping but he's not sleeping, and he's awake but not awake. Sort of what everybody looks like Kabbalah Shabbos, yeah. Kagoin the korole. It says you call him and he answers. But he can't tell you a svar, right? You see somebody dozing, you tell him, hey, he says, yeah, right? And then you ask him a question, you get no answer. That type. We all know what this is. But when you remind him something, then he's enough that he remembers, and he'll get involved. Okay, so that's what it means. So fully asleep, the yibum does not work. Dozing off, it works. Fine. Gufa, Amar Rabba. Nafam min agag v'niska chayav ba'arba dvarim. So they're being together on the roof, and then they fall off, and then he falls on top of somebody. This is any person. So he's chayav ba'arba dvarim. He's chayav in the four, like we said, nezek tzar ripu sheves. Will be yivim like kana, but he's not. If it happens to be his yivama, it's not a kana because there's no kavana, right? So Gemara says, "Benezek tzar b'sheves b'ripu." Of a baishas loy mechayah, but there's no baishas. He doesn't have to pay for embarrassment. You're not chayav on baishas until you have kavana. And here is clearly he did not have any sort of kavana to embarrass him. Fine. So Amar Rava, if a person had kavana, the
kavana has to be for the busha, or the kavana has to be for the nezek.
No, he has to. No, kavana to hurt them.
Yeah. It doesn't have to have kavana to be.
To nezek, you said nezek. I didn't hear. Nezek, the kavana, the kavana nezek, not necessarily busha. Yeah, fine. So Amar Rava, neschav latiach b'kaisel. This literally latiach means to smear something in the kaisel. But if the guy has kavana to have relations with the wall. But I guess his yevama was next to the wall, behind the wall, in the whatever. Either use your imagination or don't use your imagination, whatever it is, right? And he thought he was going to be in a wall, and it ended up being in the yevama. So like he's not kind of her. But if he plans on having relations with a behema, and instead it was his yevama, then kana he is kind of heard. At least he's having a kavana for biyah. I cannot say I understand this svara. Okay, so meaning biyah to a wall. Biyah to a wall is not. He is planning on having a biyah, just to a wall.
No, but that's not biyah. That's motzi zera.
And to an animal parrot is not.
No,
I'm sure she's thrilled that this
that's
happened.
An isser biyah.
She's like, oh, I'm sorry.
You were going to do it with a wall?
You thought you were right, or your animal. Oh, you mixed me up with a cow.
Well, that's a separate issue I'll have to get over.
I'm just okay. Right. So, anyways, but no, it's a fascinating thing. Since he had
I can say something now, but I'm afraid you'd laugh too hard, so I'm not saying it.
You'll save it for the bloopers after.
Try us.
It's not even a shame Kedushin. It's a whole different issur.
That's the pella. That's the pella of this Gemara. This is what the Paskin and Shulchan Aruch. We're saying that to an animal, at least I mean, I hate to say it. It almost sounds like bestiality is more mutter than I mean, it's who's doing a bigger issur? Okay, obviously there's no issur in the Torah to be boil a wall, right? That's not. I mean, other than zera levatala.
Parrot saying it's zera.
Right. Other than zera levatala, is somebody who's together with an animal. It's not zera levatala. It's mashma from this. I can't know if it's a stretch. It's mashma from this that it has a shame biyah. It's not zera levatala.
You could say the opposite, maybe. You could say that it's not an act at all if it's with a wall, but with an animal, it's an act, and that's the kavanah.
So that's what you have to say. That an act, if with a living being, if it's an act, then that's enough. That's enough that it's considered a maisa, and then mamela, if it happens to be this woman that's on the other end, then you're kind of
right. If it's inanimate, then it's not a maisa at all.
Right. That's what you have to say.
So, Avi, it could lead to a very modern shiloh. Right? It's a robot.
Right. Yeah, no chanami. Right.
That's better than an animal. I think that's what the Gemara would say.
I don't know. I'm saying, if somebody sleeps with a guy. If somebody sleeps with a guy, is that zera levatala?
What?
A man wouldn't
a robot be the same as an animal?
Well, it's not a living thing.
No, be the same. I mean, at first you'd say it's the same as a wall.
Well, the question is if animation is the ikr or the maisa somehow not a maisa biyah or it is a maisa. So with a robot, it may be considered a maisa biyah, even though it's inanimate.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
What's worse, zera levatala or bestiality?
No, l'chara bestiality is a chayav kares.
Yes, and this makes sense why it's worse than the other.
Yeah.
No, you're saying why it works more. That's what the negative, the chorus proves.
No, we see that there's a differentiation between the two.
Right. Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the problem. Like what Zev was pointing out before with the Biyah Shaloi Kedarka, right? I mean, neither one of these kavanas could have possibly been to have a child for his brother. Right? It wasn't a biyah that was even shayach, right? Which we said we don't care about because otherwise biyah shaloi kedarka. Right. So that's the interesting thing. We're getting into Tosfos before with kishui. So what happens if he doesn't have kishui and he goes and he goes on top of his wife, whatever, they force him on top of his wife without a kishui, which is what before Tosfos handles it. So that everybody's mind, it seems like that's not a biyah. Why? Because it cannot impregnate her. Because there's no kishui. Right?
We said, I don't understand that at all. Because going in the same bathtub after they leave, we say can cause pregnancy, but this can't?
Right. And a chanami. So, no, but that's what it's saying. See, for some reason, even biyah shaloi kedarka, since it has a shame biyah, then even though it cannot lead to her getting pregnant, but still we say it's okay. Mashain kain a biyah without a kishui aver, doesn't have a shame biyah. So it's a very interesting thing. What comes out is that yes, you need kavana, but it has to have a biyah, a shame biyah of something, of anything. That's the way it seems that you have to learn pshat, is that yibum is tied in, that it has to have a shame biyah, not necessarily a biyah that could lead to any sort of pregnancy, but it has to have a shame biyah. Right? And a wall is not a shame biyah. An animal is a shame biyah. And you see that because
that's why it's chayav. Yeah, that's
right. That's
exactly.
That's why the Torah doesn't say that you can't be together with a wall, but it says you can't be together with
An animal has a din biyah?
That's clearly what the Gemara is saying, yes.
With an animal, it's called revia, but you find that lashon with people also.
Right.
Malchus, for example, talks about a man and a woman. It's a reveya.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you the shaila that I'm handling with before the shir, and you can't even make it up. A guy's wife told him today, I don't know who the person is. Guy's wife told him today that she was together this past week with a guy. Married, 3 kids. But she was drunk. Now, again, I'm just handling it now, and then I have to stop. But if she was drunk, can we even believe what she's saying? Do we have to believe? Meaning, she was drunk. Could be she was forced. It could be a lot. Who knows? It could be a lot of things. It also could be a guy pulling my leg because it's text, but that's another story, right? So, but
can't believe he's texting you this, Shiloh. Sorry.
Well, he says it's a more. I said
not even a phone call.
I told the guy you got to speak to a Rav. He said I'm too embarrassed. I said, what are you embarrassed about? I said, what are you embarrassed?
He can't call you.
Meet him at the bar.
I said, you gotta. He says there's only two rabbis that he'll trust, me and another rabbi. I said, I'm honored, but you gotta. I mean, you're not gonna survive this without speaking. So he's embarrassed. I'm trying to tell him that he's not the one that should be embarrassed.
A rabbi, a man and his drunk wife walk into a bar.
No, yeah. But I was handling this last week. We said that a guy does not make mamzer, right? Didn't we say this? That a guy does not. We pass in Shulchan Aruch, a guy, if she would be pregnant from this guy, it would not make mamzer. And I was trying to figure out. So does that mean? Usually we say that's if it makes mamzer, then they have to get divorced. Does it mean that they have to get divorced if it's true, or does the two go hand in hand? I don't know. Okay, whatever it is. But I'm saying the part of the shaila here is being drunk, if that's any sort of kavana or not. Fine. Okay. Fine. Okay, so the now we get into just the technical part of the daf. So well, I guess not exact. So we said whether there's haraah. Haraah just means now exactly, well, that's the question, what exactly haraah is. But let's assume now haraah is, we'll see that more on Amud Beis, where the top of the aver goes inside, right? So we're saying that that's considered a biyah, even though that's not a full biyah, right? So Amar Ula, talking about the first wide line. Amar Ula, minayin la haraah min ha-Torah. How do you know that there's haraah from the Torah, right? Meaning, how do you know that as long as there's a little bit of a haraah, then that's considered like a biyah, and that would be considered a chayav kares, or whatever it is. Shenemar. Right? So when a person,
I'm sorry. What's the kasha is that is it considered a biyah?
It's not a kasha. It is considered a biyah. How we know that it's considered a biyah?
Wait a minute, it's considered a biyah. So then
haraah is considered a biyah. But it's not a gemar biyah. It's not a full biyah.
I'm saying, I'm asking you. So then, what did he do?
No. You went inside. There was a penetration, but not full.
So I'm asking you, is it considered a biyah or not?
That's what the Mishnah says. Yes, the Mishnah says yes, but how?
Then what's the shaila?
Well, how do you know?
Why is it considered a biyah?
Right. Meaning, if you put matzah into your mouth, right? We're still holding post Pesach. You put matzah into your mouth and then you spit it out. Right? So we're going to tell you the halach is klar, you were not yaitza mitzvahs matzah. Right? This is the equivalent, right? This is the biyah. It's not a full biyah. It just went a little bit.
She can't be a little bit pregnant, Zev. So why is this biyah?
No, wait a minute. But the haraah, she could get pregnant.
No, she can't.
Yes, she can. She could get pregnant from haraah.
Is that yes. Yeah, of course.
Why but that has nothing. Who says it has to do with pregnancy? Because you only have the same shaila with Ramosha. You can get pregnant, right? Ramosha says you can get pregnant.
What do you mean? We just said shalom kedarka is okay.
Well, no, we're going to get to that. Haraah shalom kedarka. Don't worry.
No, but we just said, didn't we say shalom kedarka, the regular biyah is fine?
No.
Then it works.
Yeah, yes. No, but
so that has nothing to do with pregnancy.
Correct. Right. That's a good point. I didn't come you saying. Yeah, that's a good point. And we're going to see also what's with shalom kedarka with znus. Right? Anyways, but that's what we're saying. How do you know the haraah, even though it's not a gemar biyah, how do you know that it's still considered a biyah? Because it says, and this is this week's parsha grada for all those that are, that's this week's parsha. This coming week. So mikan laharom min ha-Torah, that's how we know that haraah is min ha-Torah. That's because it says beferish es mekaira hera, right? So fine. So mikan laharom min ha-Torah ashka nida sheina rayis mina shara rayis minayin. That tells us by nida. How do you know that by other rayis, right? The chitem and nelef min nida. And if you're going to say that we learned it out from nida, ma'ala nida shekein matama es bayala. A nida nida is matama, the person who's boil her, right? So I mean, there's a chumrah. Meaning, if you want to learn it out from nida and say, well, if it works for nida, that they're going to ask assur, so it should be assur all other rights. So if that's the case, nida has a chumrah though, because nida, the olam's not aware of this. If a man sleeps with a nida, he becomes a nida. It doesn't mean he gets periods, but it just means that he gets tumas nida, and he needs 7 days and tuma, whatever it is. So there's a big chumrah. A guy who's mazana, he ain't getting the tzaddik of the year award, but he's not becoming tummy, right? Unless she's nida too. Right? So we'll learn it out.
Why should that make any difference to whether it's called biyah?
No, I don't think it does. I think it's just anytime you want to learn something out from another thing, if you find that tzad chomer, so then that's it.
I guess I'm really asking, why do we need to be melech? Why do we need to learn it out from nida? If the Torah defines what mara is by nida, then that's the definition of mara.
Right. I don't know.
The definition of mara is biyah. Then why do I need to learn anything else?
No, I don't think that's the definition. We're learning out the word haraah. We're saying it means biyah for everything else. So we're saying you learn out from nida, but you can't because nida has a different chumrah.
That's what I'm asking. Why do we need to learn it out? You're saying it's not the definition. Isn't that
correct?
We're
not saying that haraah. We're not saying haraah is a biyah. We're saying haraah is haraah, but we treat it like a biyah.
It's a halachic biyah.
Correct. That's what I think. But I don't know. So then where it says, learn it out from your brother's wife. When a man takes his brother's wife, she's a nida. Is your brother's wife always a nida? Ella kin nida. She's like a nida. Ma nida b'haraah, just like a nida. Haraah is assur, so eshesach haraah is also assur. So when answer asks, Ma le'eshesach shekain b'yadi l'rabbis, by an eshesach, right, where the husband can make more isurim, because if he wants, he can go marry up to 1,000 women, right? and then each one of them is going to be assuring onto his brothers, right?
This kasha Gemara makes it sound like we are trying to find the definition. It's not just halachic. If it was halachic, then we have enough. We're interested in married by yibum. That's right. Eishasah. We have that already. Now we're asking, maybe it's just Eishasah. So what? That's enough.
I hear. I don't know. Whenever I get into drushes, I told you a few times, this Messiah from my father's part. When there's drushes, you just go with it. Because sometimes I get darshan this way and sometimes I darshan the other way. And yeah. So now we're saying, Eishasah, he has in his hands, he could be marba so many more isurim, because every wife he marries, that will become assur la'olam on his brothers. Right? So therefore there's a chumrah about that. So learn it out from an aunt, from the father's side and the aunt from the mother's side. You shouldn't be together with an aunt from your father and from your mother. Because it's like your own, it's doing haraah on your relatives. So then you see clearly that those are rayas, haraah is a problem. So then we'll learn out from this. And then that's an issur that came by itself. Meaning, normally the other isurim, that's arayas, a lot of them come through marriage. You marry one woman, then maybe you become assur to the women that are related to her. But this one didn't come from marriage. This was your father's sister or your mother's sister. It was a mamela. So, okay, so we have 3 options where to learn from: nida, sister-in-law, or aunts. So we can't learn out from either one. And so the Gemara says, why don't we learn one out from the other 2? So when I ask, what are you going to learn it out from? Learn it out from sister-in-law and aunts. Those are also because they're relatives. Right? Ella, tasting me nida. So learn out from nida, from nida and aunt. Those are isurim that come by themselves, meaning that's a nida's assur has nothing to do with marriage. Right? She gets a period, she becomes assur. Ella, tasting me nida ve'eshasach. Learn it out from nida and eshasach. To my parachta, right? Because what are you going to ask about that? So then the Gemara says, no. Nida and Eishes Ach do not have a heter at the time of that they're assur. Meaning, what does that mean? Nida becomes mutter eventually, so she does get a heter. So we're saying no, when she's Nida, there's no heter, and when they're married, Eishes Ach, there's no heter. Tamer be'Eishes Ish, can Yeshua heter b'chayei osim, but Eishes Ish eventually will have a heter if they get divorced, or if he dies, then that woman does become mutter. So I'm going to Ravacha b'dichlu Ravina atu Nida Eishes Ach b'chayei osim hu de'ein lahem heter. Is Nida and Eishes Ach b'chayei osim? That's when they don't heter. Aval achar mikan yeshal heter. But after that, they do have a heter. That can't be Nida on Talmud Beis now. So we say Nida be yoimik talya milsa. By a Nida, it's talya in days, meaning she's going to be a Nida. Then eventually she's going to get out of her Nida. She goes to Mikvah. She becomes mutter. Eishes Ach the banim talya milsa talya rachmana. And the brother, the sister-in-law, that goes with whether they have kids, right? Fine. Ella, so parachachi. So here's the question. Mala nida ve'eishes ach shekain ein assur matirin. That makes them assur cannot be matir them, right? Meaning, what causes a woman to be a nida? Her period. And what causes this woman, the sister-in-law, to become assur? Her husband. They don't have the chayav to get rid of this assur. All right? You have to wait, meaning she just can't stop her period, right? And then the same with the sister-in-law. The sister-in-law is always assur. Even if the brother decides to get divorced, she's still going to be assur because unless they don't have kids. But if they do have kids, then that assur remains forever, right? Eishes Ach is assur forever unless he dies without kids. But by Eishes Ish, the one who made her assur can be mater, meaning if somebody wants to be together with a guy's wife, so he has to divorce her, and then she becomes mutter. So the guy making her assur has in his power to make mutter. So therefore, we're having a problem learning out from any one of these three. Right? Anybody that does any of these tayevas and they're going to be cut off. We make a hekish, a comparison between all the Haraahs and nida. Ma nida b'Haraah, just like a nida was just with Haraah. Af kol b'Haraah, so too anything is with Haraah. Well, a nida the ksiva gabi eishes ach lamalis, and why does by the eishes ach? Why does it say the word nida? Because the Rav Huna remez the yivama in a Torah minayin. Where is there a remez to yibum in the Torah? When it says minayin haksiv yevama yavay aleh, we don't need a remez. It says it beferish. El remez the yivama shasura b'chayei baila minayin. How do you know that a yevama is assur to marry her brother-in-law even when he's alive? Meaning, if he divorces her, she's still not married to her brother-in-law. Hi svarahi. It's so what it asks. What do you mean? It's a svara, right? If the Torah tells you that after he dies without kids, to Baal is mutter mechlad b'chayei Baal asura, but it's mashma that if he's alive, even if they're divorced, then they're assur. So the Gemara says, but dilma la'achar misas baila mitzvah. Maybe that's not a deal. Maybe after the husband dies, it's a mitzvah if he died without kids. B'chayei baila rishus. But when he's alive and they get divorced, it would be rishus. Inami la'achar misas baila in. After the husband dies, then he's allowed to marry her. B'chayei baila loy. The lava ba mechlala say asay. And the lav that comes from an asay tells you it's an asay. Right? And maybe you wouldn't be chorus. So therefore, the reason why it's saying nidahi to tell you that it's still assur and it's chiv chorus to marry a sister-in-law. So is your wife's brother always a nida? So even though there's a heter, if her husband dies without kids, but if the husband is alive, meaning if they got divorced, she's still not allowed to marry her brother-in-law. Okay. So Ella then Gemara asks, so why does it say Haraah? If we're saying that we learn out all Haraahs from Nida, so then why do you have to say the word Haraah by an aunt, by your father's sister or mother's sister, you can't be together. Because we need it for the shayla that Ravina asked from Rav. If somebody was together with a zachar, mishkav zachar, but he only did haraah, right? But he didn't do a full penetration. So bezachar, so Gemara says bezachar, mishkavei isha ksiva. It says mishkavei isha, right? Which means he's with a man, just the way, same way he's with a woman, which is, and we said that a woman haraah is a problem. So to by a man haraah is a problem. Hello, hama'ara bebehema ma'u. So the question is, if you did haraah on a behema, if it's not, if you don't need the word haraah by an ant, because that's part of a rice, the asibication with the Rav Yaina, because we learned it out from the Hekesh of Rav Yaina, to give it to the Indian of haraah the behema, which will tell you that just haraah on a behema is assur, which is a kasha what we were discussing on Amud Aleph, right? Because we were saying that a behema is still considered some sort of relations. From this Gemara, it's clearly not. Otherwise, why don't we say it's the same as relations? It should go into the same category. Elamai, being together with an animal, is not relations. It's a separate category.
L'shita seich, you don't need to say that. We're talking about a halachic definition, not a real definition. If we're talking about a definition,
but before we said that it's what do you call it?
It's considered a biyah, ma'isa biyah, as opposed to a wall, which is. But I wouldn't tell you haraah would be considered a biyah. If we need a halachic definition.
Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. I don't know. Okay, fine. So mifti behema chayv misas bezdin he behema is chayv misas bezdin. My time of ksiv lahara tidah gabi chayv krisis, right? So why are we saying that this haraah by chayv krisis, meaning it's chayv misas bezdin? Why should it be mentioned by chayv krisis? Lifta gabi misas bezdin. Misas bezdin, right? Again, this Gemara is asking a technical point. So you're saying that by it says the word haraah by ants, and we're learning from it meaning ants. We have to be beferish. Ants meaning not A-N-T, A-U-N-T, right? That it says it there. It says the word haraah there. Listen, Orchat Tzadikim talks. One of the things he says, he, she, whatever she says about whatever it says about doing tshuva, it says the common averas that people do, and one of them, as far as I remember, is being together with chickens. So that was a common assur, I think, if I remember. The Orchat Tzadikim lists that, whatever it is. So, but the Gemara is just asking a technical point. So you're teaching it by ants, which is chorus, and you're learning it out to chayav misas bezdin, which is animal. Why not put the haraah by one of the arayos of chayav misas bezdin? So when it answers, I did the kula kra l'drasha asi. So since the whole pasuk is coming for a drasha, ksiv beinami hamilsa l'drasha. So we're writing for a drasha. Now, what do you mean? What does this mean? My drasha. What are you darshaning from this pasuk? The Tanya, erva zachos avicha loisegala. Right, the erva of your father's sister, you shouldn't be megala. Right, you shouldn't reveal. Beimin ha'av, beimin ha'em. It's whether it's from the father or the mother. Right? Maybe it only means an aunt from the father and not from the mother. B'dinu. I would say it's a kabbalah. Chayav kan, if he's chayav here for the father's sister, but chayav ba'chaysay, and he's also chayav for your own sister. Just like a sister is also to be together, whether it's a sister from the father or from the mother. Afkan bein. So to here, it's whether it's from the aunt, whether it's from the father or from the mother. Or go this way. Chayiv kan. Here you're chayiv. Chayiv b'daydasai, and you're chayiv with my father's brother's wife. That's what daydasai is. Ma daydasai mina avalei mina aim. Just like daydasai is only the father's brother's sister wife, and not the mother's brother's wife. Afkan mina avalei mina aim. So those are the two options. So near Lamidaim, done an Isra Abba Me'elav, me Isra Abba Me'elav. An Isra that comes by itself, because she's a relative before marriage. Me Isra Abba Me'elav, Al Techiach Teidasa, Shein Isra Abba Me'elav. But don't bring in from the uncle, because that uncle is, and you're answering that uncle's wife. That's through marriage. That's Oiklach L'Derech Zeh, or go to another way. Done in and we learn out the father's relatives from the mother's relatives. Don't being achaisa, who's his own relatives. So the pasuk says, the erva of your father's sister, don't be megala beim and abeim. Side from the father, side from the mother. Ervas achais imcha loy segala. The erva of your mother's sister, you shouldn't be megala beim and abeim and aim. Fine. So okay, these are, as I told you, these are all drushes. Fine. So why do you have to say it? By the father's sister. Why do you need to write it by the father's the mother's sister? Right? Meaning, why do you need to have two psukim to say your father's sister don't be with and your mother's sister don't be? Just learn one. No, you need both. Because there's a yichus there. But the mother, sister, maybe not, because there's no yichus, right? We know yichus always goes through the father. Because and if the Torah said it just ba'achos aim, shekain vadayis, that's a vaday. Meaning again, this just completes the whole Amud here, the whole daf. The mother, you know for sure, is your mother. Your father, bottom line is, you have no idea if your father is your father. The assumption is that your father is the father, right? But you don't know for sure, right? But your father's sister, maybe not, because maybe he's not really your father. So that's what you need. Find it. Is this where we get
that Jews only work with the mother?
Who?
Is this where it comes from, that Yidden it only works by the mother?
No, with that it's a pasuk. We had that. I think we had it a bunch of weeks ago. That's really a pasuk that says that it goes with the mother. But yeah.
So really, we don't have kibbutz av because we don't really know if he's your father.
No, we go bus a rive. It's a rive.
So basically, you don't give you kibbutz av because it's a rive.
That's exactly what it is.
What happens if you look exactly like your father?
It works. By the way, Zev, it works for shveres too. It's a rive. I'm saying if.
What if you look exactly like your father?
Can I ask you, how do you know?
It doesn't make a difference. You look like it goes buster. Now you realize what rive means. Rive means that it could be that she's mezana, but the majority of the time she's with her husband. So we're going to assume that the husband's the father. It doesn't say like, oh no, Yiddish mamas are not mezana. No. We go with the. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just whatever. We're just saying. Just
that's because you that's because tonight your mother happens to be in Baltimore.
That's true. It's a good, right? Some say whatever.
Barring the case, the shiloh that you were asked tonight.
Yeah, that's I know. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, you go about survive. So anyways, yeah. So that is what it does. The pshikal tana the mina avalei mina emi nale. Right? How do you know that doidasai? Because we said the aunt through marriage is only the father's from the father, not from the mother. Amarava ask you doi. The erva of his father's brothers megala. That's talking about what do you call it? If somebody needs the money and he's going to end up becoming an eved, so you got a mitzvah to bail him out. Right? It says, whether it's just like there, that's talking about the father, and from the father's side, not from the mother's side. So you would think, so here too, it's only from the father, not from the mother. Fine, and how do you talk over there that when you're redeeming a slave, that it's only the father's brother that you mechuyev to do? From the mishpacha you redeem. Mishpacha is av kuruya mishpacha. The father's family is called mishpacha. Mishpacha's aim ain't a kuya mishpacha. I don't know what you do with this one, Zev. The mother's is not considered mishpacha, right? That's because we go with the Yerusha goes with the father, right? Fine. Yeah. So we'll stop there because this next thing is a whole long case with it's a whole long case that lasts. And basically tomorrow's daf is also Viter drushes just like this all together. But yeah, fine. Okay. So I hope it was understandable. Tonight is difficult with Daf as it is.
I'm just waiting for Aaron Kaplan to send out pictures.
Yeah.
Maybe with a skydiving example. Who knows?
That's right. Anyways, all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Don't forget Yalav for those that eat Malava Malka.